How the Tube's two biggest albums almost killed everything. I'm John Bowden. This is Rock History Music. The Tubes were formed in San Francisco in 1972. They became famous for their outrageous live shows, mixed with satire and a lot of costume changes. The band was the epitome of the rock and roll spectacle. Led by singer Fee Waybill, they scored early attention with White Punks on Dope in 1975, a biting parody of excess. Through the late 70s and early 80s, they pushed boundaries with albums like Remote Control, before hitting the mainstream with the Completion Backwards Principle and Talk to You Later. Outside Inside followed with She's a Beauty. Even to this day, the Tubes are one of those bands that people love to talk about. In this, you're going to hear about Steve Lukather, David Foster, and troubles that came with that huge success with the Completion Backwards Principle and Outside Inside. Our special guest is Fee Waybill on Rock History Music. Did you get flack for David Foster? I mean, because I like those two albums an awful lot, and I like you brought Todd back after that, but I love those two albums like a lot.
I think they were the best albums we ever made, and I mean, we should have made a third record with him, but he's so caustic when it comes to it's just he's got no détente when it comes to bands. It's pretty much like the same thing that happened with Chicago. You ever see that documentary about Chicago? Same thing. He connects with me like he did with Peter Cetera, and the other guys in the band freak out. And they in the Chicago interview or documentary, they're all crying and moaning that he's writing songs with Peter Cetera, and it's not really the Chicago style. It's completely different. It's more commercial. It's more radio friendly. And they're going, no. And then, but they go ahead and do it and sell 7 million records, right? We didn't go ahead and do it. The band flipped out and went, no, you can't tell us what to do. You can't tell us that Fee and you and Steve Lukather are going to write all the hits and you guys can do whatever the hell else you want to do. They went, no, and that's why I ended up quitting the band. They went, no, we're overruling you. It's a democracy. We're 7 guys. You're not the leader. And they fired David Foster and went to Todd and made that third record on Capitol Records. And it was straight to the dumper. And and I understand it after all these years. My wife talks to me about being a victim. I used to bitch and moan about, oh man, if those guys would have not done that, I would have been, we would have had hit records and blah, blah, blah. And she said, get over it. Okay. That was a long time ago. And I'm pretty much over it. And I kind of understand that it was a pride thing and kind of a unity thing. And they didn't want to be told what to do. And they brought Todd back, and that record didn't do very well at all. And I said, I kind of made my own boat. I'm responsible. That's what she keeps telling me. You're responsible for everything that happens to you. You're responsible. There's no one else. It's you. Okay. And then I just, and I said, don't do this, you guys. This is a big mistake. I'm going to quit. If you do this, I'm quitting. And they went, no, you're not quitting. There's no way. You're not going to quit. You got nothing happening. And they did it. And then I'm stuck. And then I went, okay, well, I'm quitting. I guess I have to quit. And so I did. I quit and I moved to LA, and it was pretty much the best thing that ever happened to me. And I grew up and I did my own thing. And I met Richard Marx, and who I met in the studio with Foster. And Richard and I have been, excuse me, best friends now Richard's like my brother. He's 38 years. We've been the best of friends. And
Too Late to Say Goodbye is my favorite Richard Marx, and I know your contributions to that. That's my favorite by far, and I know Prairie's on there, and that's my favorite by far Richard Marx songs, and I'm a big Richard Marx fan.
Yeah, I mean, I've written lyrics for him for 38 years. And then my last record, we finally did this last solo album, my Fee Waybill Rides Again solo album. And it was all on his instigation. You know, he said, we started this, we wrote a couple songs, it's been years, let's go back and do it. And we did. We finished it up, and I'm very proud of it. And we get together all the time. He lives out here now in California, and he's got 3 sons who are my godsons. And I'm actually taking Brandon, his oldest son, horseback riding. He texted me the other day and he says, Uncle Fee. They call me Uncle Fee. And I'm not actually related, but they call me Uncle Fee. And he said, I want to go riding. Can you take me riding? And I said, yeah, absolutely. The place next door to our club is a rental place, a trail riding place. Let's go. And so we're going to go trail riding with him and his wife. And
what happens with that? I mean, I don't want to overcomplicate it, but like I hate to cliche this, but it's like he could see you. It's like he could see your worth. I mean, you're a lyricist. You're a damn good lyricist. Like, and first of all, how did you guys connect, and how did he approach you to go to that next level, or how did it work?
What happened was when he placed a song, he was a songwriter. He lived in Chicago. His father, Dick, was a jingle writer. And he was he wrote the Doublemint Gum jingle. He wrote My Dog's Better Than Your Dog, Kennel Ration. He wrote all these jingles, and he was a great jazz keyboard player. And he was a big deal in Chicago, jazz keyboardist. And Richard he taught him to play piano, and Richard started writing songs, and he placed a song with Lionel Richie and came out to LA as an 18-year-old. And he asked Lionel if he knew David Foster. He was aware of Foster and David's, production skill. And he said, yeah, Foster's down the street at the Lion Share studio producing the Tubes. And he went, oh, the Tubes, yeah, I love that guy's lyrics. And so he set it up, Lionel set it up with David for Richard to come to a session. And so Richard came to a session, and we were doing Outside Inside, and we were doing, I can't remember what song we were doing. I thought it might have been She's a Beauty. No, it wasn't She's a Beauty. It was some other song. And we were having so he sneaks into the studio and sits way back in the dark, right? And the guitar player is having a really bad hangover day, and he can't get it right. And David could do it again and do it again, and your amp sounds like a washing machine, and do it again. And she's really upset, and he just can't get it right. And we're in the studio listening to in the control room, listening to a playback. And he turns around, he goes, well, who's this guy in the back? Who's that guy? What's this guy doing in here? And, Richard's kind of just sitting there. And I went, come on, dude, just do he came to see Foster, okay? Just go do your thing, okay? Just don't worry about it. Just let's get this done. And so at the end of the session, Richard came up to me and he goes, thanks, man, and for standing up for me. And I went, hey, man, it's, you're cool. That wasn't right. And he goes, would you write a song with me? I love your lyrics. Would you write a song with me? And I went, okay, sure. And so we wrote a song. The first song we ever wrote was on my first solo album. It was called Who Loves You Baby? It was Telly Savalas Kojak tagline, right? And so that was it. We started and we wrote one song, and then we wrote another song, and then at that point, he was only trying to play songs. We wrote Edge of a Broken Heart for Vixen, went to #1. And then, we kept trying to play songs with other people. And finally, a few years later, I think it was 88, he said, I want to perform. I don't want to just write songs for other people. I want to write songs for me and do and be a performing artist. And I said, okay, well, and he got himself a deal. He's this guy. I mean, he's one of the most driven people I've ever met in my, probably the most driven person I've ever met in my life. He never stops. And he writes and writes and writes, and he writes with everybody. And he is so prolific. It's incredible. And so he gets a deal with Manhattan, which was part of Capitol back then. And I get together with him, and I think I wrote 4 songs on his first record. And immediately he gets, he gets a number 2 song. He sells 3 million records. And it was off to the races. And I think he's only sold 40 million albums, I think, so far. And I've written on almost all of them. And so it was great. I was living in LA, and I had left the band, and I didn't know what to do. And I pretty much sat around waiting for the mailman to show up with my publishing check. And so, so we've been friends ever since. I mean, I just saw him last week, and we had lunch together, and he helped me make this record. And he married Daisy Fuentes, and they live out in the Valley, and she's a sweetheart. And it's just been great. I got really lucky, and I'm really a lucky guy. I have to say, I'm really a lucky guy, and I'm really happy.
Remember, if you want to donate to the channel, there's a PayPal link at the very top of every one of our videos, because income on YouTube has become very up and down. So we'd appreciate that. Subscribe to our channel, click the bell notification so you don't miss anything. Like our videos, comment on them, and share them on social media. That makes a huge difference. I'm John Bowden. This is Rock History Music. Take care of yourself. Till next time.